Hello and welcome back to the Paropod. It's episode 135. 35.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been a hot minute. But we are now back. Myself, Mark, and
Me.
himself, Owen. We're back after a short hiatus for professional and
Academic reasons.
reasons. Entirely justifiable, but we're now back.
I went down and made a shitty short film.
Yeah, Owen made a film, which we could talk about on any given episode of the Powerpod.
Recommended episode for next week.
A recommended film, yeah, it could be 8 minutes long. It's like perfect. It falls within the shorter the film, the better.
Oh yeah,
Falls perfectly within our parameters of an ideal film. And honestly, I thought it was pretty good. So I recommend everyone giving it a watch. Is it on YouTube?
No.
But anyway, but yeah, it's a first film for Owen. First of many, maybe.
I feel bad for even the shittiest movie is a miracle that it got made. Let me tell you.
No.
Coordinating even 5 people on a film set is so difficult. Props to anyone that's ever made anything half. Like I think what we made was decent.
Yeah.
But if you made something good, I don't know how you did it. I don't know. Let me tell you, what was the worst film we've ever watched on this podcast?
Lamora.
Let me tell you, that's a goddamn miracle that film got made.
No, your film is far better than Lamora, and a lot of other films that we watched in this. Composition wise, the music I thought was kind of cool. But anyway, our recommended film of the week is The Battle of Algiers from 1966. Gillo Pontecorvo directed it. Came out in 1966. It's about the Battle of Algiers, I'd imagine.
Sorry, I just took away the description because we need to stop doing the description at the start.
Yeah, no, there's no point. Like you can look if you want to know what it's about.
It's in the name.
You could just skip ahead an hour, or you could just look it up. Or it's in the name.
It's in the name.
It's also in the name. It's about the Algerian Revolution and the French being bastards to them, and it's surprisingly relevant for the world today. That kind of film. Very relevant, but yeah, that's for later on. Anyway, in the meantime, how have you been the last month? How have you been for the last month?
I think it's even more than a month.
I think it has been.
I think our last episode came out in March.
Yeah,
which means we recorded it like before.
It has been 6 weeks, I'd say 6-7 weeks,
something like that. Yeah,
it's been a while.
Been good. Yeah. I think the last time I saw you was probably my birthday, which is I think the last week that this thing came out.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, that was a while ago.
I'm talking about the fear I had from that night. Fucking hell.
Yeah. Jesus.
I checked my phone the next day. I'm reliving past trauma, but I checked my phone the next morning with no recollection of half of the night.
Yeah, you could tell.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You could tell.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And seeing that I for some reason rang you at 4:00 in the morning.
I know. Yeah.
In amidst like other calls, I was like, I don't know why I was trying to ring Mark for. And then I was talking to my friend Reeza. I was like, Reeza, why did I ring you? And they're like, oh, you rang us to see if we had Mark with us, but we didn't have Mark with us. We had Shane. And I was like, oh, okay. But why was I wondering where Mark was?
Who's Reeza?
Reeza is one of my friends from college.
Oh right. Why would I have been with her?
I don't know.
I was sound asleep.
I don't know why I was ringing you.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a wild night. It was a wild night.
I was in fucking bits. I was in fucking state.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, kids, never do drugs.
Dangerous game.
Oh god.
But yeah, no, fun was had.
Anyway,
regardless.
How have you been?
Grand, same old.
Yeah.
Same old, clocking in, clocking out, doing the same old bollocks that I usually do.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing really. I've finished my course.
Nice.
I really have no news. I haven't really done anything.
All right, I have a story to tell.
Okay, please tell.
So, as you know, working in CEX, and as part of my job in CEX, we sell phones, and I'm there, and some, kind of. I'm gonna get me with it because fuck him, dickhead boy. He was a 16, 17-year-old with the face of a 40-year-old, which is always the great sign. And he's there asking for a phone. I'm like, yeah, sure. And he picks out some heap of shit phone. And I'm like, yeah, fine, whatever. €200 or whatever. And he's like, yeah, cool, grand. And I hand him, he pops his card in, and his mate starts asking me questions. Right? His friend starts asking me questions, and my attention is drawn away from the fellow with the card machine and towards this fella. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And he goes, there you go. Just go popped in. I was like, yep, cool, grand. There you go. Off you go. And off he walks. And I was standing there afterwards and was like, something there's something weird about that.
Yeah.
I was like, there's something off about that. And I looked at the card receipt, 1 cent.
Yeah.
I did not know you could do that, where if you hold your card, because you went back and looked at the CCTV footage, you can hold the card in a certain way where it doesn't make the sound of the transaction being cancelled.
Oh, really?
Because card machines make a sound like a big if the transaction's been cancelled.
Oh.
But if you hold the card machine or the card in a certain way, there is a way to make it not make that sound.
That's good. Or that's interesting.
Yeah,
anyway.
so there you go, everyone. There's an easy way to fucking rob shops when you're distracting the sale assistant and you know how to work a card machine better than they do. And so got robbed.
You just got away. There's no resolution to this.
He just got away with it. He's just got away with it.
He's going to go somewhere. Are you chasing down the road or something?
No, my supervisor ran out and dragged them back into the shop.
Oh.
And he was like, no, I paid for whatever. And I was like, no, I don't think you did, bro. I think you paid 1 cent for it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, right. What I'll do is I'll do like a settlement on the card machine. And I was like, if the figures here will match up or whatever. Yeah. And so I printed the card like machine or whatever, and there was like €450. We have 2 tills. The tills are not matched up with the card machine, which is an important detail for this story, right?
Okay, yeah.
So my till starts saying that there's €500, but I'm like, no, there isn't, because if he didn't pay for this phone, that means that this card machine should actually have 300 or €250 on it.
All right.
I'm like, okay, grand, cool. So then I turned to my colleague and I was like, how many card transactions have you made on your till? So again, taking out, so there's €450. Realistically, it should have 265. But I'm like, okay, right, let's just imagine, right, let's take away okay, so there's €300. Okay, grand. How much do you have? She goes, €300. And so my €200 that I'm meant to have, or the €300 that I'm meant to have, mixed with her €300 is €600, which does not match up to the card machine, which is saying that there's €450, even if you take into account the €200 that was put.
Where was the money gone?
So apparently the card machine takes a while to to make the settlement, which I did not know that. So I was like, these numbers still don't match up anyway. So I was like, and my manager's like, I think it's fine. And off he goes. And I was like, I'm pretty certain he did steal that. Look, check the CCTV. Look at the CCTV and you can see him doing it. I'm like, I was like, I already
got done, man.
Yeah, I got done. I got done twice, bro. Twice.
The fact you called him back and you still walked away, that's you can't ever let that. That's retail career. That's ending. That's career ending.
I was literally like, not only am I an idiot for getting caught the first time, I'm a bigger fucking idiot for letting him go the second time.
Oh, you got away. The one that got away. So they acknowledged that this was like kind of but like it was a technical fault as well as anything else. Yeah. So like the card machines should have printed that out.
But it should have no one got in trouble, especially because then later on during the week, someone comes in and asks for can they see the iPhone 15 A grade, which is like the basically like mint condition phone. It's basically like a brand new phone most of the time.
Yeah.
But so someone hasn't opened up the box and they just handed it to us. But whatever. A grade, 1 terabyte, which is literally the most expensive phone that CEX sells, right?
Yeah.
I think it's like $1,500 or whatever it was. And fella comes in with his mate and he's asking like, oh yeah, can I see the phone or whatever? And sales assistant is holding it or whatever. And he asks like something like, oh, is that whatever there? And she like tilts the phone up. And as she tilts the phone up, he leans across, grabs it out of her hand and sprints out of the shop.
And he just got away.
Jesus. Right? So that was like, okay, right, we're clearly getting targeted or whatever. So they obviously tell the guard. We rang the guard up over my phone, but the guard has basically forgot about that shitty iPhone that got robbed from us, and more so focused on the $1.5 phone that got robbed. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
these fellas actually got caught because they ran out the shopping centre, dived into a car that apparently some old man was driving, and darted off. While starting off, nearly ran someone over, and that person took down their license plate, gave it to security gave it to the Garda caught them.
What are they doing? Like, it's not as if they robbed the bank. Like, 1,500, just walk out the shop.
Just keep running.
Run, or just stop running and start walking after a bit. Just play it off.
Just play it, yeah. Well, because once you get out the shopping centre, shopping security can't do anything. That's across the board.
It's across the border, man.
It's across the border.
You can't do anything, man.
That's out their jurisdiction.
Create a diplomatic incident.
Yeah. Claim asylum across the road.
And David's like...
But yeah, so yeah, these fellas got caught for that as well.
That's just on them.
Apparently, then as well, like the week after that, someone else came in and was also asking too many questions about another phone. It's like,
yeah. You call the guards and some old man. Like, he just wants to know what he's
asking too many questions. We got a suspect.
Him. SWAT team jumping in.
Put down the phone.
Yeah,
oh, no.
That's rough. I think it's because if you steal something €200, the guards don't do anything anyway. But
I don't think they do anything anyway. Like, it was only because these nearly ran someone over.
yeah, because they're stupid enough to kind of. Why is there an old man driving the car? It's like, surely you have other things to be doing. Like, you have a pension now. What are you doing?
Yeah.
why are you trying to rob phones?
But it's like, I don't know why people rob iPhones, because like within a week they will just be bricked. Like, you can do that. Like, you can just like you put on you like contact this like service.
Yeah, the
and
IME
they just
or whatever.
Yeah, they just block the phone, and the phone can't be opened. It can't be used for anything, and you now have a €1,500 brick.
Yeah, we can just sell it to one of the Chinese shops in town.
Yeah, but like
within a week.
Yeah, but for like how much realistically?
€700.
Yeah, I suppose.
They'd be like, yeah, why not?
Sure, we'll take
then
your shitty.
It's their problem.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, it's weird. I heard a story about these guys who robbed or maybe you might have said to me, these guys who robbed a shop at like knife point or whatever, and just like robbed all the cash from the till, but also robbed all the scratch cards. And then when they went home, they like scratched all the scratch cards, and one of them came up $10,000. And you know the way, yeah. When you collect the winnings, you have to write your name and address on the. And they went into a shop. Or like, oh, I just won $10,000. Can you cash this in for me? And the guards just came in and were like, you're under arrest. They just handed in their name and address.
Apparently there's another, like, I don't know what CX it was, but fella robbed the shop. I think he robbed like a bunch of phones and was running out, dropped all the phones, and before he got out of the shop, he took off the balaclava that he was wearing.
Yeah.
People are so dumb, man. It's insane.
It's a plague. But it makes you wonder, like, if you were how many smart criminals are out there? Because you mostly hear about.
That's why you don't hear about them, bro.
Yeah, exactly. You mostly don't hear about the dumb criminals. Like, oh, this is a funny story, or this happened, or this guy got caught, or like, this guy looks like a criminal. You know, you can kind of tell. What about the people who are just like kind of, if you completely play it under the radar and act smart about it, how much can you get away with? You know, it makes you think.
Makes you think. How many people are out there that are criminals?
Yeah, a lot. Probably.
And
we're getting laughed at because we're law-abiding citizens.
Yeah, no, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, we're idiots. What are we doing? We should be stealing phones as well. You know?
Never pay for anything. Do crime. Download that car.
Yeah, I'm there afraid not to scan my baguette in Tesco, and there's people there walking into robbing full reams of scratch cards and terabyte iPhones out of sexes and stuff. It's crazy.
We're idiots.
We are, yeah.
We're idiots.
We've been had.
We have been had. We've made a show of ourselves.
Yes, as always.
Do I have any other funny stories to tell? Actually, finished my script.
Yes.
Script.
How long is that? 120?
90 pages.
90 pages.
90 pages, because 90 was the limit that you could write.
What did you do differently about it? How did you approach it?
I had to create some scenarios that didn't actually happen.
Yeah, of course.
It's based on real things. Create some scenarios that didn't actually happen. And then really kind of like actually couldn't put in some stuff that actually did happen, because like that's why you do the arc. Can't put that in.
Yeah.
And then create a resolution to a real life scenario that never had that resolution.
Yeah. Oh, what was the resolution?
Marty and
He just goes off into the sunset.
he goes off in the sunset. No.
He drives off like in Greece.
The Marty and
Yeah.
Ed are like sit down, having come to terms over everything that's happened, and they're sitting across from two old men, and they start like reminiscing and like being friends, whatever. And then the script ends.
Oh, okay.
So that's me and you, buddy.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering. I was like, is one of those characters me?
No, that's you.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, that's you.
All
But
right.
let me tell you, reliving like past traumas
Yeah.
for the art of creating scripts or whatever. It's so weird. It's so fucking weird. And to have seen a TV show do it as well as Baby Reindeer
Yes.
is
yes.
fucking insane.
I don't know how I didn't see you going with that.
Have you seen Baby Reindeer?
I haven't, just because I heard how depressing it was, and I decided I don't need that in my life.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So we're coming at this. It's a new positive attitude. There'll be no negativity on this podcast with anything. Any of the films we're going to talk about on this list that I'm looking at, there'll be no negativity outside of one.
Well, that's sort of which one.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Okay, so I watched Baby Reindeer. It is the newest Netflix sensation. And it is about what the fuck's his name? Nathan? No, that's not his name.
Something God, Richard.
No, it is something God. Is it Nathan God? Am I making that up?
Richie God.
Is it Richard? Is his name Richard?
Yeah.
No, hold on, I need to double check that. Richard
I haven't
Gadd?
even watched it.
And you're Donnie. No, it's about Richard Gadd, but the actor,
Oh.
sorry, the character's name is Donnie Dunn. I was thinking
Donnie Dunn.
Donnie
What kind
Dunn.
of name is that?
Donnie Dunn.
Don't do what Donnie Dunn did. It's like, what?
So, Donnie Dunn is Rich. Okay, so do I need to explain what this is? Because everyone knows. Okay.
I don't know what this is.
Okay. So,
properly
Baby Reindeer is based on the true life story of Richard Gadd, who wrote and created this series, but he also stars in it. And Richard Gadd and Donnie Dunn experienced. I'm going to say Donnie because it's just easier to say. Donnie Dunn has a stalker, which also happened to the real life dude.
Yeah.
And in the series, her name is Martha. Like, all the names have been changed to protect identities. That hasn't worked because the actual real life Martha came out and basically said, "This is about me, and this is not true."
Yeah.
So, but anyway, we're not gonna talk about
I'm gonna dox this woman.
we're not the dox this woman. I actually can't remember. Like, I keep getting TikToks of I'm like, I don't want to know because that's not what this. All right, so that is the premise that Donnie has a stalker, and it takes up like the first 2-3 episodes is about really about the stalker and the grip that a stalker can have on your life, and it is so deeply uncomfortable. It is not as uncomfortable though as the scenes of bad stand-up. I don't know what it is, Mark. There is something about bad stand-up and doing a stand-up set where no one laughs utterly destroys me as a person. It cringes me so fucking bad. It's like in the Joker when he's telling the jokes and no one's laughing. It's like, I want to die.
Yeah, it's hard to watch.
It's so hard to watch.
I don't understand why anyone would be a stand-up comedian.
Oh,
at
no.
all. But,
No.
I admire the people that.
If you do,
are good
you
at
are
it.
mental. Fair play to you.
Yeah, no, you're certifiably mental. I know a guy who does it, and he's dead on. He's a pretty funny guy as well. But I just can't understand. But I chat away to him, and it's just he just seems like a normal guy.
They're mining you for material.
Probably, yeah. But he just seems like he's like, this guy's just like me, except he's bald. And he's from Kerry. He's like we're so, apart from that, we can relate on every level. But I can't ever imagine with most occupations or most things that people choose to do. I can put myself in their shoes and be like, I could see myself. Maybe I could see why someone would do that. Someone that isn't me. even if it's something I completely disagree with or whatever, you know. But I can never understand why anyone
would even attempt to do
stand-up. I have no idea why someone would do it. I don't understand it. But I commend the people who do it.
Oh, 100%.
Who attempt it and make a good attempt at it. And are like, you know, fairly good.
Yeah.
You know? People who are bad shouldn't bother.
But like, I feel like with stand-up as well, like, surely that happens to like every stand-up comedian. It's like you tell a joke and no one laughs. And it's like, oh. Because the worst thing about it as well is like, I think the part of it that is like really painful to see is that the stand-up comedian thinks that it's funny. Or else they wouldn't be telling it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you thought that was funny, and like it's just like it's not. It didn't hit.
Yeah.
So there's multiple scenes throughout this series of that happening, and it's like, oh, I want to die every time it happens. But so Donnie has Martha, and basically, like, apparently the real life story as well is that this woman came in, and he's like as he describes. She was someone that you saw and you immediately just felt bad for. You know those people when you just see them and just like, oh, that's so condescending, but I feel bad for you. And so he offers her a cup of tea, and that's it. That's all that it took. This random act of kindness, and she's latched onto him, and she is like fantasizing, and she starts emailing him constantly, like hundreds of emails every day. Comes into his place of work every day and is just like really like weird and like but you're watching this and you're like, why are you allowing this to happen? And in certain like bits, like she requests to be his friend on Facebook, and you're like, well, just don't accept that message, don't do that. Like this woman's clearly unwell, and he accepts the friendship request. I was like, you're kind of like playing into this a little bit. Like, why are you allowing this to happen? And then like the first scene of the whole series is him going to the police, and him like, oh, I'm getting stalked. And the policeman's like, well, how long has it been gone for? And he's like, 6 months. And the guy's like, has it taken you so long to report this? And so like I feel like people are really focusing on the stalker element of this, which is a huge part of the TV show. But that is not what the TV show is about. The TV show is a painfully honest depiction of the complexities of trauma.
Yeah.
Because Richard and Donnie went through something extremely traumatic, and it is basically the reason why he like allowed this to keep going and like played into it and stuff like that. So first 3 episodes is that. The 4th episode is here's the traumatic thing that happened to him, and then episode 5, 6, and 7 are like just like the like now this show has changed and now you're seeing why you're doing everything that you're doing in this situation. There is a scene where he sits down with his parents, and I'm not joking, baby Reindeer, Owen doesn't cry much.
Yeah.
Owen cried at this scene.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that.
Oh, sweet Jesus. Because it's playing off in one way and it's already like extremely sad, and then there's like a twist in the scene, and it just like twists that knife into your heart a little bit deeper. And it's just like the acting in this show is insane. I've never seen the woman that plays Martha, I've never seen her in anything. She is unreal.
She looks the spitzier one as well.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
But she's an insane actor, and like the way that she's able to like play like innocent, but also like there is something like deeply wrong going on behind, is just like incredible. But like that is like why I think this show is like essentially a must watch. Again, it is like when you're about to watch the big traumatic scene, it comes up with a big warning. A big warning saying...
As a warning, does it?
It says a warning saying, like, if any... It's like... I don't really want to spoil what it is, but, like...
everyone knows what it is.
It is. Everyone knows what it is.
Yeah.
Like, he gets sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
And it comes up with a big warning on the episode. And, like, after it happens, I'm sitting there and, like, he's after reenacting his rape.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he is after, like, what? And then, like, and even the way he then talks about himself, because, like, again, this is, like, starring the dude that wrote it. He, like, there's a scene where he sits in a comedy club, and he is just explaining what happened, which is, like, how this series got picked up is because Richard Gad performed it as, like, a comedy, but also, like, performance art kind of show. And I think that's, like, what, because, again, like, not all of this is 100% true, and some of it he has said there's, like, other people's stories that he's, like, woven into it. But, like, there's a scene where he's, like, in the comedy club, and he is, you know, telling the audience, but also, like, you, the audience, like, why he is the way he is. And it is, like so brutally honest at being like, I am also, like, a bit of a piece of shit because I have kind of toyed with this mentally ill woman. Knowingly done that because I myself am severely mentally unwell. And it's just, like, the levels of, like, honesty and, like, uncomfortable honesty with, like, what you have done is, like, I've never seen a show like this.
Yeah, it sounds so fucking depressing though.
Oh, like,
that's why I heard people raving about it, and then I found out what it was about. I was like, I'm not fucking watching that. Fuck that. It's like, that's the last thing anyone, like, I don't need that. I don't want to watch. Was it 8 episodes long? 8 hours long?
7.
It's like, fuck that. I'm not watching that.
Each episode's like half an hour.
I've heard it's
except for, like, one episode's like 45 minutes.
Oh yeah, I've heard it's very good.
Oh, it is.
I'm not gonna watch it.
It like, this is, like, in an age of, like streaming services and stuff like that, I can't see, like, this show really existing in any other format outside of, like, a streaming service. Which is, like, the benefit of streaming services is that, like, Netflix and all these people can, like, pick up these smaller shows and, like, releasing it to the world, and then all of a sudden it's, like, huge and like, everyone's watching it at the same time. It's the benefit of streaming services. Now, obviously, the streaming services have their many issues,
many problems.
But, like, this is, like, the type of shit that's just, like, yeah, this is what I want from my Netflix. This is the one from Disney Plus. It's, like, once in a blue moon that they give people what they fucking want. But oh, this show is insane. Like, again, like, never seen a TV show like this before. And the ending, again, because it's real life, you don't get the satisfactory conclusion to everything that you want, because life doesn't work that way.
Well, you got a Netflix show.
You got a Netflix show, but, like,
sounds like a pretty happy ending.
Yeah, pretty happy. But, like, that's not the end of the TV show, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
the TV show ends in somewhere where it's like, oh, what the fuck? Like, and then, like, you have, even, like, I feel like the first 3 episodes is the stalker, and then by the end of the episode, you can see why she is the way that why the stalker is the way that she is.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, this is, like, it's so upsetting, like, in all aspects. Again, this show is literally, like, trauma is extremely complicated, and its ramifications are far deeper than people, like, initially think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
Oh yeah, no, it is.
It's depressing.
A vicious cycle.
How depressing.
Yeah. Great TV show though. Recommend everyone watches it. But huge content warning with that. Yeah. Especially episode 4. There's a reason why it comes up with warnings at the start and at the end.
At the end, why is there?
If you or anyone that you know have experienced something, it's just like, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking hell.
Again, like, it's, like, time as well, because you're just, like, with the whole, like, Me Too and the Harvey Weinstein stuff like that. It's like, well, how do people get themselves into this situation? And this TV show is like, this is how people get themselves into those situations. And, like, you're sitting there like, yeah, I can understand how that can happen, and, like, really easily happen.
Ah, yeah, of course. There's a slightly different power dynamic there.
Slightly, but, like,
Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, but it's even, like, young writer wanting to come up into the industry gets taken advantage of because of that.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
It's just, like, similarities, and again, it's from the male perspective, which I don't feel like you see at all.
Rare. Very rare.
You don't really see that much.
Yeah, I remember Brendan Fraser got laughed out of Hollywood.
Yeah.
For saying he got sexually assaulted by some guy. He even named him, and your man was like, "No, I didn't do that." And everyone's just like, "Yeah, fair enough." I was like, yeah, no, he probably didn't do it.
He said he didn't do it.
He's old enough. Leave him be.
Yeah.
So yeah. But how grim.
It is grim.
How utterly grim.
First episode back in a month and we're back with a bang.
Oh, God.
We're half an hour in, the vibes are...
What a downer. No.
Mark, bring us up. What have you been watching?
I watched Austin Powers too.
I was really hoping you were going to go with that one. I was ready to go for that one, Mark.
I watched Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. This is a serious neck-breaking change of tone.
This is a foot... I got whiplash from this, bro. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm like, it's I watched Austin Powers too. Just gonna, like, you know, maybe it's a bit insensitive, but like, I've
maybe should go with the other one. Austin Powers.
No, I will. But like, yeah, I heard Baby Reindeer is very good, but I'm just not gonna watch it because it's so depressing. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't watch any real depressing movies except for Battle of Algiers. But it's not really a depressing movie. It's a really complicated movie.
It's complicated.
We're gonna talk about that.
Also a complicated movie.
But yeah, I watched Austin Powers 2 for some reason.
I opened up my doc today. I haven't put down when I watched. It's like, man, I've been watching some like interesting good shit. And then you put down your stuff. I was like, yep, Mark's back to it. There he is.
Yeah. No, because I did watch. I watched other stuff. I watched a few serious things. I watched the documentary about the Nickelodeon Dan Schneider and all that stuff.
Oh God, let's not cover that.
Yeah, no, that's even more depressing. I'm not going to talk. Well, it's not even more. It's as depressing. But I'm not going to talk about that because it's not even like this is a beautiful piece of drama, so well acted. Like it's just very depressing. It's kind of interesting, but it's quite depressing. But I watched Austin Powers, for some reason it just came to my head.
Is Austin Powers 2 the one with Fat Bastard in it?
Yes, it is. It's the introduction of Fat Bastard.
I think 1 and 2. I don't think I've ever seen the third one, but 1 and 2 are the same film in my brain. Like I think I watched those films back when I was like between the age of 10 and 13 interchangeably, and I don't think I ever knew which one was which.
Yeah, I would have the reverse. I always saw 1 as a very separate entity, but 2 and 3 are based because they both have Fat Bastard in them and Mini-Me, because Mini-Me is not in the first one, which is very strange.
Did not know that.
Mini-Me, Fat Bastard,
all these iconic characters.
Yeah, they're not in. They're kind of the defining characters of the franchise. They're not in the first Austin Powers
2. Greatest sequel of all time.
It's where it kicks off. Because I remember I watched Austin Powers 1 back 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I reviewed it on this podcast anyway, and I remember talking about how disappointed I was because I used to love these films. I loved them. I thought they were so funny.
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah, all the stupid
all
quotes,
these great moments.
Yeah, just like great, just stupid moments, and it's kind of like Borat, where you go back and watch it, and you're hoping that it still kind of holds up. Yeah. And I went back and I watched Austin Powers 1, and it didn't hold up. And I remember being very disappointed by that. It was a lot of it was because I think the humor was very dated. To an extent, it was just kind of some of it was distasteful and not very funny.
Bad stand up.
Not really. Like it's just like
not that uncomfortable.
Just kind of I don't know, punching down on certain things. I just thought it didn't really hold up. It was very, very. The whole thing is very overtly sexual, and he's like a pervert and stuff like that.
These are extra strong mint, just so you know.
Fair enough. Let's go. Let's go. Oh yeah, baby.
We're snoozing up.
This is what Austin would have wanted. But it didn't hit right, and I felt very disappointed by that. And so I just didn't watch the rest of the series, just to kind of like
cleanse yourself,
to entomb the good memories that I had.
I didn't watch Guru.
Yeah, I remember I did watch Love Guru when it came out. For some reason, I was like 10 years old. It's absolutely disgusting movie. What a horrible movie. Anyway, Austin Powers 2 is actually class. It's actually amazing. It's actually very funny. It's actually very charming. It's actually not in bad taste.
Oh really?
It's not. It's actually not. Like there are like certain things where it's like, okay, you can tell this film was made in 2002 or whatever, 2001 or 2000. You can tell it's made a long time ago. But all the stuff that's like, he's a pervert. He's like, he's the ladies' man in a 2000s film. It's all like a like all pure parody in a way that I maybe wasn't leaned on as much in the first one, or maybe I just completely fucking missed it somehow. But it's all so like good natured, like proper good pastiche. Like it's every part of it lives up to my memory of the film when I was a kid, and like you can appreciate more. It's not like Shrek, where it's like a kids film where the adults can see. It's like I watched Austin Powers when I was a kid, and then you look back when you're an adult, it's like, oh, you kind of appreciate a few of the
Yeah.
moments. Like, it's not a cinematic masterpiece by any means.
It's not Shrek 2.
It's not Shrek 2. Let's be clear here. It is not Shrek 2. But it is. It's a very funny film. It's a film that doesn't obviously doesn't take itself seriously at all. But it being silly, it's very like deliberately silly in a way that that works. And Mike Myers is obviously a really good actor, really good comedic actor. Dr. Evil, like classic character, very very funny.
$100 million.
Yeah. Why make $1 trillion? We can make $1 billion. It's just stupid stuff like that. All the camera work. The music. I didn't realize the Austin Powers lore until I was looking it up after I watched the second one. The whole character of Austin Powers was made up when Mike Myers, like in the 90s, while he was on SNL, started a band with his friends, some of his English friends and some people he knew from Hollywood, and it was like a tribute act to like 60s kind of psychedelic music, and they all came up with different characters. And he was like the front man, and he came up with this character of Austin Powers, who was like this parody of like James Bond and different detectives and like super secret agents from BBC TV shows back in the 60s and 50s, 60s and 70s that he had watched growing up because his parents are English. And then there was also a character in the band was Felicity Shagwell, who turns up in this film, and there's a few other characters from the band that show up in the film. And the actual band, the interstitials where it's just him like dancing around to music. That's all. The band produced that music. And that music is from their albums that they made before they released any of the movies. So it has this whole kind of like lore behind it, and the actual the films themselves are just a vehicle for this crazy character that he just made up. But it's all done in that same spirit where it's just playfulness. It's just pure silliness. Like Mini-Me, that is bad taste. That should be bad taste. But it still works. It still lands. It still lands. Everyone's having fun.
I love when he puts him in the toilet.
Yeah. It's like he climbs in his suit and all, and it's like the whole idea of Dr. Evil on Jerry Springer. I remember I didn't find that funny before, but now it just... There's something about the ridiculousness of the whole setup, and Seth Green and Dr. Evil fighting each other, and then a member of the Ku Klux Klan stands up as like, you're a fucking freak, says to Dr. Evil. They start fighting. It's just simple laughs like that, and it just paid off in a way that's very satisfying.
Good spoof humor.
Yes, it's a really ahead of its time as a what would you call it? Like just a parody film. Or not really ahead of its time. You had like Airplane and stuff like that beforehand. But just in terms of how out there it is, just how well executed it is.
Yeah.
Like even like Fat Bastard as a character, like that's just
Get my belly.
that is like the whole like you think about the catchphrases, you think about the description of the character, what the character does. You're like, that sounds fucking stupid. Like that sounds stupid. But it's not. It's funny. It's actually funny.
Yeah.
It's actually like it just, and it's not as if he's I know with Borat, Sacha Baron Cohen's like, oh, it's actually like a social commentary on like XYZ, and then you watch the film, you're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
It's just not.
It's just not. Austin Powers, it's not a social commentary. It isn't commentating on anything except for Mike Myers' love for
James Bond.
for old movies and British culture and stuff like that. So it was a nice little refuge. It was a nice refuge. I had a great laugh.
That's all you need.
It. Yeah.
Sometimes it's okay just to knock on a spoof movie.
It was just ridiculous.
Just a lighthearted comedy.
Just well executed. Has Elvis Costello, Burt Bacharach, just random. Beyonce shows him the third one. Tom Cruise in the third one.
I don't think I've ever seen the third one. Beyonce's in it?
Beyonce is his sidekick in the third movie.
Did not know that.
Throughout the entire movie.
Did not know that.
Yeah. Gold member. And he apparently wants to make a fourth one, but he's like 65 now. I don't know how that would work.
Don't do it.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't know if that's a good idea.
Don't do it. Don't do that. Just leave it.
But
I think
no.
Austin Powers is a fine franchise to just leave behind. Leave that in the 2000s.
But it's so funny.
They did the same thing with Johnny English, and Johnny English was never, I don't think, ever as good.
Johnny English was never. Yeah, that'd be a barometer. Johnny English is alright. It's not that funny. Austin Powers, you're sitting there, you're like, I'm just being stupid, and this is just fun. This is just a fun movie.
It's
to
okay
watch.
to turn off my brain and laugh at the stupid thing.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had a great time watching it, I have to say.
You watched another comedy movie?
I did. I watched Game Night,
Mm-hmm. Which I think
I've never heard of.
you've never said.
I'd never even heard of it.
talked about this movie on the
Did you talk about this before?
I maybe possibly.
You might have.
I think like Game Night. Starring Jason
And Rachel
no,
Jason
not
Statham.
Tatum.
Yeah,
Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
And what's her name?
Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams and Jesse Plemons.
Yeah.
I think that is like
You might have talked about this. actually.
I think I might have talked about it because I think it is just like the best, like one of the best comedies of the 2010s, and like no one talks about it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because I just like looked up. We're just having like a little night in, and I looked up movies. I think I put in like date night movies,
Mm-hmm.
and the first post is like a Reddit post from like 2019 or something.
That's
like
when you know it's good.
Yeah.
Reddit post. Say less.
And there's some guy who was saying Game Night is really overlooked. I'd give it a watch. He didn't give any detail beyond that, but it had a lot of points. And so I was like, all right, I'm just gonna give this a go because I had a list. Austin Powers 2 was on that list as well. We ended up watching both. But I watched Game Night as well, and I watched the full thing. I was like, how have I've never even heard of this film.
Mm-hmm.
Though maybe it might have gotten lost in. You might have talked about it, just thinking about it. Thinking about because Jesse Plemons is in it, Jason Bateman is in it, Rachel McAdams. It's like you're not going to really go wrong with that kind of muscle in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The whole setup, the whole idea is everything is executed so well.
Yeah.
Like everything is it's just so genuinely funny, and I had a great time watching that as well. But yeah, Jesse Plemons like knocks it out of the park.
Oh, Jesse Plemons is so good in it.
He's so like comedically very underused.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's Game Night is really good.
Yeah, because like I think that like Game Night is so like if people haven't seen Game Night, it is literally a couple. They have their game night every month,
Something like that. Yeah.
something like that, with their friends all coming around and they have their game night. And Jason Bateman's older brother, who's always the cool one, comes in and he's like, oh no, we're going to step this up a notch. We're going to do game night in my house and we're going to do something fucking crazy. And they're like, okay, cool. And then he's like, someone's going to come in and they're going to kidnap one of us and then we have to go off and find them. And then he gets kidnapped for real.
Yes.
And then, they still think it's part of the game night and they go off trying to get him. But like, I just think like just the scenarios that are set up, like when they go to the big mansion,
yeah,
and they go underground, and there's this fucking like
there's a fight club,
a bare knuckle boxing. Like rich people do fight clubs. I knew it.
Yeah, like they plant these seeds of jokes that then become much like the idea of the couple who are talking about how they had a break in their relationship, and they both he got a hand job off some random person that was like a minor celebrity, and she slept with a big celebrity, and he's like, who is it? And then she reveals it's Denzel Washington, like half an hour into the film. And then there's this whole scene where they're trapped in a room or something, and they're just going through the phone, and she's describing this whole scene, and the scene the flashback of her getting with Denzel is so well shot as well. Like it's just this really cool dream sequence, and then it comes back to reality, and like throughout the dream sequence I had this like dodgy stand-in for Denzel, and they're like, oh, like they didn't get him for the movie, and it comes back to reality, and like he's just explaining to her, he's like, Denzel, did he say his name was Denzel? Why didn't he pay for the drinks at the club? And then she pulls out her phone and shows a picture of him, and it's just like this dodgy guy who vaguely looks like Denzel. It's been set up for 45 minutes at this stage, but it's just the payoff is so good.
Oh, it's so
but
good.
it has stuff like that all throughout the film, and Dexter shows up at the end, and
Yes,
he's like the main villain, but he's not even really a villain. Because everyone's like it's just kind of a funny caper
and
movie.
it just keeps like the fake out as well with Jesse Plemons, and it's like,
Yeah,
you invited me to game night.
Every part of it, it's so funny. Like, I couldn't believe that. Yeah, no one talks about this movie.
It's like easily like one of the best like comedies of the 2010s. Like no one talks about it.
Yeah.
Like a highly underrated film.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember if it's like if they use miniatures or if it's just like the camera that they use, but like the shots where it looks like a game board, like little miniatures like moving around in the cars and stuff like that. I can't remember in my head it looks like miniatures, but I think it's just a camera that they're using.
It might have been intentional though. Yeah.
I can't remember, but it looks like little miniatures moving around on the board on a really detailed like miniature set.
Yeah.
And it's like that's just such a cool little, like thematic thing. It's like, oh yeah, it's game night.
yeah.
And
it has the credit sequence. Remember the credit sequence? Where
yeah.
it's just going through.
And there's gags even within that.
Yeah, you know, if a film is good if it makes you laugh like through the credits.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Austin Powers also has that in one or two of them. This the full credit sequence is just like it's a sight gag after sight gag after sight gag going through Jesse Plemons' character's plans for setting up the fake game night, which were then usurped by a much bigger, plot occurrence. But yeah, no, well worth the watch.
Mm-hmm.
Well worth the watch.
Yeah.
That was many laughs were had.
Yeah.
I had a good laugh watching that film.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. One more film to talk about, and then we'll go for a break.
Yeah.
It's getting kind of late, Mark. It's getting kind of spooky.
Ooh.
I know it's like nearly summer, but it's dark out now.
It is.
Late Night with the Devil.
Yes.
This movie took my fucking short film's title.
Late Night with the Devil. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so this film, I feel like there's a lot of like hype for this film because it has that spooky guy that's in like everything, and he's amazing in everything that he's in.
Dalmatian or something his name is.
Yeah, it's some like crazy name that I can never remember or pronounce.
I don't know his first name.
But this is is it like a found footage film? Is that the?
It's a found footage film without any of the clunkiness. I would say it's a found footage film.
David Dast. Oh Jesus Christ! You pronounce that?
David
Dastmalchian.
Dastmalchian.
He's the guy that's in Prisoners, and he's also in.
He's
the Suicide Squad.
He's the Joker stand-in Dark Knight.
Yeah,
as well.
That's great.
He has a freaky kind of face.
Yeah, he's just he's really like he's a great actor. But
yeah, he is.
It is like a found footage film that is depicting like these horrible events occurred late one night during night owls with David. With Jack. Late night owl with Jack. And it's like, it sets it up at the start, being like, Jack was a major talk show host, and then his career started to dip, but he has all these like ties to, the
Bohemian
occult.
Grove.
Well, yeah, it's just a Bohemian Grove. Like it's straight up what it is.
Yeah.
Big owl and like just depictions of Bohemian Grove. Being like, oh, like he has all these ties to the occult, and then his star fame started to rise. However, his wife tragically died of cancer, even though she never smoked, and then yada yada yada. And they're swinging for the fences now, and they're really trying to keep their ratings up.
They're trying to beat Johnny Carson.
And yeah, and we're watching an episode on Halloween night where they really tried to like make it with like the ratings by having, an episode about like ghosts and shit, and this like it's set during the 70s, so the whole satanic panic is going on, and all this type of like context for like what this film is trying to depict. What did you think about this movie?
I thought this film was amazing.
I
loved this film.
Okay.
I loved it. I thought it was one of the best films I've seen in a long time. Best horror films I've seen in a long time. I thought it was a perfect horror combined with that old kind of vintage feel, and then all these
the 70s vibe is immaculately recreated.
It is. I had the satanic panic stuff, which is like always a good kind of backdrop. Like it always works.
If you want to set a horror film anytime, do it during the 70s.
During the 70s, yeah.
Golden decade of horror.
Like the vibes, the kind of the iconography, the cultural kind of, the atmosphere. It's all there in the film. But like in terms of what it talks about from a media perspective, I think it's incredible. Just the whole idea of him selling his soul, to the devil, quote unquote. But really, he's selling his soul to studio execs and all that bollocks. But the film does it, I think, until the last 20 minutes in a much more refined and nuanced way than how I just explained it. Like the whole thing is like he's for half the film he's directly staring at you, and he's talking about, and it's like it's one of those things where the film is not in a very like avant-garde, fourth wall breaking kind of way. but like you're at least I was very conscious while I was watching the film that like the film is kind of inviting me to participate. And like whether I like it or not.
Very literally later on in the film, with that, we'll do a spoiler warning later on. But that scene
for a while.
That scene, the hallucination scene, is like literally you are now a part of the film when that happens.
Yeah.
You know
yeah. You're in the movie.
Yeah.
I thought just what it does with that, like the idea of the found footage kind of. I really liked how, because it is a found footage film, but it's not like, you know, shaky cam where it's like this was lost. Like this is lost footage. So you ever watch those YouTube videos about like this is a lost SpongeBob episode?
Yeah,
it's really creepy.
It's like a creepy pasta.
Yeah. It's like this lost episode where like the film itself is nearly cursed, and you're not even sure what. There's a point in the film where something terrible happens, something horrifying happens, and it's shown to you, to the audience, and then all of a sudden it switches nearly like it's nearly into it completely undermines your perception of what's happening in the film when it tells you that this actually didn't happen, or did it happen?
Yeah, it's
like you're being lied to by your own eyes.
Yeah,
not just in the sense that you're watching a movie, but in the sense that like the movie is about something being shot on videotape, and the videotape itself lies, and you have the skeptic who's present throughout the film, who I was convinced was someone who he's not. I thought he was the devil.
Yeah, he was gonna be the devil.
I thought I was 100%. This guy is clearly the devil. He's clearly here. He's the inside man. He's got the evil mustache. He's discounting everyone's experience when clearly something terrible is happening right now. He's got to be the devil. But and it does it twice or three times, where the film just kind of. It leads you in one direction, and then it goes in a different direction altogether, which I really like in a horror film. Yeah. Well, everyone likes that. But usually you can these things kind of telegraph themselves. And you can see this is about, you know, XYZ theme. And this is a film was like, no, this film is about it's about media, it's about how we perceive media and how we interact with media. But it's also a horror film. Yeah. It's also about something really deeply, spiritually, demonically wrong happening within the four corners of the screen. I thought it was great. What did you think of the film?
So remember I said I wanted to we're going to be a positive podcast?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So this is where we're going to turn into a negative podcast.
What?
Okay, so I agree with everything that you say. The 70s vibe is so incredibly recreated. Like, this film feels like you are watching lost footage from a 70s talk show.
Yeah, it's on point.
It is on point. And like when things are going wrong, you can feel
the dread,
and you can feel like, just stop it, Jack. But as you said, like, he's desperate to get these ratings, so he just keeps going and keeps going until we reach our awful, horrific climax. However, every time it's like, we'll be right back after these messages, and then it cuts to black and white, and we get the backstage footage.
Yeah.
Completely shattered my immersion every single time. Every time. Because then I was watching, I was like, well, now I'm just watching a movie. I don't feel like I'm watching like lost footage behind the scenes, because it's so like well shot. There's like 2-point camera setups for things, and it's like, I don't feel like I'm watching lost footage. I feel like I'm watching a film now. And then you go back and like, oh yeah, okay, this is the good bit. And then it cuts back to the black and white footage. I'm like, my immersion has been broken. And like, because it's set up like a TV show, the climaxes were always at the ad break, because we'll be right back after this. And you're like, my interest is here, and now my interest is dropped, and now my interest comes back up, but I'm like, not to the stage where it was, because it's meant to replicate a TV show. And so but then there's like the narrative stuff is really interesting. Like, you have, okay, right, let's go in for spoilers at this stage.
Yeah, just go in.
Spoiler alert! Fast forward to the end of this if you don't want any spoilers. Okay, when the first guy comes out and he's there talking to the spirits or whatever, and he dies, and then it's like, oh shit, right, things are going bad now.
Yeah.
And like, that is where you get the studio execs, like, we're really pushing for the ratings, because there is no way to have gotten that like narrative sections in if you're going to recreate a talk show like this. I don't know how they could have done it. Maybe if you were talking about the shaky hand stuff, maybe, but again, like, they're on a studio set. No one's gonna be running around with a fucking handheld for this.
They could have done maybe like recordings, just a black screen.
Yeah,
recordings.
Maybe. Like,
but I don't.
The
like,
mics are on them and they're still running.
Yeah. But I don't like. There is within those interscene kind of sequences. There's narrative stuff in there that you need to know. That there is no way to communicate if you just play it straight as like, for example, the first guy dying. That's a huge plot point. There's no way to communicate that as if it's being broadcast live, because that's the whole point, is that he doesn't acknowledge that on the broadcast. Yeah. But it does. You're right. It does break immersion.
Not as much as the end though.
The ending is off its tits. Like,
I like when like the camera like goes into like her demon head, and I was like, oh cool, right. So now we're like, the camera has been brought into hell essentially, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, right. So now we're seeing hell, but then it's revealed, no, this isn't hell. This is just what's going on in Jack's head, because then there's like a cut or something, and we're back to the studio, and I was like, what? I thought we were in his. So we're actually in his head. So the camera got pulled into Jack's head. But how is this lost footage now? Because what we saw was actually in Jack's head, and I'm not like, I don't know. For me, the ending didn't work.
The ending was completely ridiculous.
It was like every other ending to a horror film I've ever seen.
I like I can see what you mean, but I think I disagree in that it's like I can see it's the ending of a bad horror film. But
great start.
It's the ending of a bad horror film. It's the ending of a film that, where it's gone nowhere for an hour, and it's like, oh, we want to leave on a good note.
Pull it out from the rug.
Oh, we want to leave, like, this has been shit for an hour. You know what? We'll give you something before, like, so you leave on a high or whatever. Mm-hmm. But the entire film for the first hour is like, it's banging.
Yeah, it is.
It's banging.
Every time it's a talk show is banging.
Yeah. And then it goes off the wall. And so I think that completely recontextualizes going off the wall. Because then that's a very deliberate, like, narrative stylistic choice that they made. And yeah, it is really over the top. And yeah, maybe some of it, a lot of the gore and stuff wasn't entirely necessary. But I think the actual, the change in rhythm, the change in kind of tone, like it just goes completely into full horror mode. I think it is a valid narrative choice to make, because like, how else do you really, like, the film is kind of leading up to that, and it's only a matter of how far do you go. It's like, do you try to understate it? Do you try to, like, the camera falls over and everyone's running around and then just cuts to black? That'd be terrible. Dog shit. That'd be terrible.
Yeah, that would be
worse. That'd be
awful.
But like I was saying at the start, it's not really a found footage film, because if it was a found footage film, first of all, it'd be worse. It would be a lot worse. It wouldn't work. It would just be like, it would work in a more kind of like a zoological sense. Like, oh, it'd be like, you look back in 10 years, like, this is actually a pretty cool film. And then we talk about it for half an hour, and then we forget about it completely. But like, I'll hold on to this film for a while. I think it will be well valued, because it's not just the kind of the typical found footage, paint by numbers kind of thing, or not paint by numbers is a bit cruel to the found footage genre, but it's doing other things, and it's more using the frame of found footage to express maybe more conventional horror story. It's using the frame rather than making the frame the film itself,
Yeah.
Like a lot of found footage does. So yeah, like, it does break immersion, but I think that's forgivable. It's a bit clunky. I think it's forgivable. At the end is perfectly, I think that's perfectly fine. There's other horror films, like Hereditary does the exact same thing. A Dark Song.
Yeah, but in that way, there's just like, whoa, this has gone off the deep end in a way that I wasn't expecting. And then it gets way too literal and explains itself to you. But like, yeah, I don't know. For me, it's like, if your conceit was going to be a lost, a lost media found footage type of vibe, there's like parameters to that I feel like you kind of, like, not even like restrictions, but there's something like, don't break the complete immersion of it. and I think that this film does like multiple times throughout it.
Yeah, but like if you like think about I don't know, like say a book that's told through letters, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it needs to stick to the letters, but up to a certain point. It's like you can't break the frame. There's nothing wrong with breaking. I invite people to break the frame all the time. It's
break those four frames.
Break those frames. Like it's not. I think the thing is for me, it's not a found footage film. It's not a film. It's like this is a found footage film. It's telling the story through a mode that is typically used in found footage horror films, which usually found footage is about realism, and it's about it is about immersion. And this film is more using found footage or found footage tropes as a means to an end to induce immersion.
Yeah.
But couching that in a completely different story, which isn't really that concerned with the idea of reality, because it's about the devil on a talk show.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Ghost Watch?
The Channel 4 thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Ghost Watch is like the best conversation, but again, there's no deeper meaning to Ghost Watch.
It's just
like but what it is, what it is. But like,
it's like a prank.
Yeah, it's like you can't. It's almost like if you were to commit to this bit, I don't want to say bit, but if you're going to stick to this bit where you're going to be like, okay, we're going to recreate a 70s TV show, that is very limiting, because there's only certain things that you can show if you're going to tell this story.
Yeah.
Like the only thing I think of is like if it was like the title, the bit at the start where it's like Jack was this guy, whatever, and it's like showing a montage, whatever.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if it like in between the ad breaks you get that again to give you then context, but then it's like
but that's the same thing.
Yeah,
it's removing immersion.
I don't know. Like part of my I don't know.
It might work better, yeah.
But even at that, it's like, well, then we're just watching narration, listening to narration a lot. So
then you're just narrating what would happen through dialogue in the in between scenes.
Unless they did a documentary style in between.
Yeah, they could have done that.
Where it's like people that were there and knew and heard about it. The producers, he didn't die, did he? I don't think he died. No, he didn't die.
I think he got away,
Yeah, so he, like, talking to him, was like, oh, yeah, fucking Benny didn't want to involve in this because he's all afraid of this satanic panics type of stuff.
Yeah, I think that would have been lame. Like, because that would have ruined... They would have to ruin the ending kind of with that as well. Because it would have been like, this terrible thing happened, as a documentary.
Yeah.
Like, I'd say they probably, when they're first writing the film, it was probably an idea of, like, we'll just shoot it straight. Like as if we're just there on the set as they're shooting this, rather than the conceit of the taped talk show.
Yeah.
But then they probably just thought it's cooler to do it as with that conceit.
Yeah.
I think it is way cooler. I think it's like this film is way better for having that kind of setting, that kind of frame where it's like, the whole thing where it's like he's talking to you the entire time.
Yeah.
Like he's staring at you, like you are the audience. You were like in place. You were standing where he's addressing you. He's trying to get the ratings off of you very directly. I think that's more interesting and more important for the film than thematically.
Yeah.
And in terms of like how heavy the all the beats land, rather than just pure realism or whatever, because it's like it's not going to be.
And again, the realism thing that you're talking about, like you do have the scene where you're seeing the footage of like Benny, whatever the fucking side character's name is, where he has the worms coming out of his guts and stuff like that. And I was watching this, I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And then it goes back and it's like, it was a hallucination. Let's roll back the footage and now you're seeing what actually happened.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's so cool, because it's like, it's as if me, the audience member, I'm watching this live where this happened. I'm like, I'm seeing the footage or whatever. I've been hypnotized by this. Yeah, that's so cool.
The whole thing about hypnosis, like, I think that's kind of the main thrust of the film. That like, and yeah, even that's well before things go off the wall.
Yeah.
And people start getting beheaded and stuff like that. But already at that point, it's like it's very clear that you're watching, you're watching this recording, but at the same time, you're not watching the recording. Or if you are, there's like two different versions of what's happening being recorded here, like the one that you're watching on the screen and the one that's like in universe. So I think that's that the whole theme about hypnosis. I thought just hit really hard, and just how that interacts with just media in general. The fact that it's I think it's just fairly rare for a film to kind of talk so directly about something like that, or to address an audience so directly like that.
Yeah,
and I found that very, very compelling. Very compelling. I love this film. I loved it. I thought it was great. But just the whole, just it really gets you involved. Just really gets you involved. Like it does just go off fucking apeshit at the end. But I forgive it. I forgive it for its sins.
What do you think about the AI?
The AI. Yeah, I read about that. I didn't notice it at all.
Yeah.
So
it's not something I noticed, and then I felt like I heard it had massive hype for this film, and then I heard about the AI stuff like as soon as this film came out, and I was like, oh man, that's like shitty. Why do you have that in?
Yeah.
I was like, you don't really notice when you're watching it like at all.
Yeah.
But it is like like watching it now, you're just like, well, there's the AI. Didn't bother me like too much, but it is like, why would you bother? Like, why would you bother doing that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why not just get someone to do that? Like,
you have to pay them.
Yeah, I know, but it's like the amount of studios involved in this film at the start. Those title credits went on for 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, that was the joke, no?
What?
That was like the whole thing at the start.
The start, that there's so many studios involved.
Yeah. And then they get more ridiculous as they go on.
Is that a joke?
That's in the film, yeah. That's part of the film.
Are they not real companies?
Some of them aren't, no, I'm pretty sure. Because it goes on for like 2 minutes.
Part of me was like...
They turn into puns, I think, towards the end.
I didn't. If that's the case, I did not cop that.
It's an independent movie, like, so it wouldn't have had... It might have had like one big studio behind it, maybe.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I only copped that like towards the end of it because I was going across the Orla. I was like, what the fuck? What is this? It's like, how many fucking studios are involved in this? I only just remembered it now. Yeah,
that's cool. If there were jokes, okay, that's cool. Because there was some of them I was like, what the fuck is this? I've never seen this company before.
Because the graphics get more ridiculous as well. Mm-hmm. And you think the movie is starting, and it's like, oh no, it's just another graphics card. So.
And when the film actually started, I was still waiting for another fucking title card to come up.
Yeah. I think that was a joke anyway. But
okay, that would make sense.
Yeah. The AI, I didn't notice the AI. I heard about it before I watched it, but I didn't notice any of it. I was too enthralled. I was hypnotized by the movie.
Too much immersion.
I was too immersed in the movie.
Let me tell you, the AI just completely broke my immersion as soon as I saw it. I could spot it from straight away.
Yeah. Oh, no, it was pretty bad AI, to be fair.
Yeah, because when I saw the people talking about it on like TikTok and stuff like that afterwards, and they're like, oh yeah, this the AI images, and like then you actually look at them and it's like,
it's like Metallica, but they look like dogs.
Yeah, it's like, this does look like shit. Why the this looks like shit?
Why would you do that? Yeah.
I guess like
it kind of adds to the atmosphere, maybe. They probably printed out and they're like, this looks fucking terrible, but like this movie's kind of corny anyway, so
let's just go with it.
Just put it on the wall.
Well, we go for a break.
Let's do that.
The following sound was created by AI.
And now for our recommended film of the week, of the month. The Battle of Algiers, 1966, an Italian movie about the Algerian Revolution, directed by Gillo.
The French did not make this movie.
Actually it was banned in France for a year after it was released. Directed by Gillo Pontecorvo. Colonel Philippe is tasked with suppressing the uprising against the government in French Algeria. Soon he finds that a petty criminal, Ali Lapointe, is recruited to fight against the colonizers. So yeah,
the Battle of Algiers, this little uprising thing that kind of happened.
This little thing that happened in the 60s and the 50s. Well, mainly the 50s. The Algerian Revolution, big thing that isn't really, in the Western world, not hugely significant. Or kind of its significance isn't really dwelled upon a lot. A lot of people don't learn about it at all, even though it was massive. It was huge.
Yeah.
You know that when the European Union was first founded, the vast majority of its territory was on the African continent.
That's crazy.
Precisely because Algeria was technically a part of France. It wasn't just a colony. It was that's why they fought so so brutally against the resistance, because they considered this like part of France, the same way the British considered Ireland part of the UK.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the European Union was actually mostly African when it was founded. That's a little fun fact there.
Mad, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but it ended like 2 years later when the Algerians won. But yeah, what do you think about this film, Owen?
Okay, so bit of context for this. I think either in the recording of last episode or when we were discussing what your recommended film was going to be, I had said, yeah, I think it's like a documentary or something about the Battle of Algiers. Because all I'd ever seen was screenshots from this film. And I was like, well, it's just a documentary, whatever. And then watching it, I was like, oh, this isn't a documentary. What? And then finding out afterwards that they shot it specifically so that it looked like a documentary, blew my mind, because I was like, well, fair play. Like, you achieved what you set out to do. This film, in certain shots, looks like a documentary. And it is presenting itself from the... like, obviously from the Algerian side, being like, here is what the Algerians did. This is how guerrilla warfare works. And this is how the French fought against that. I was reading something somewhere, probably the Wikipedia page, where the part of the legacy of this film is that after this film's release, both sides, like right-wingers and leftists, like studied this film to learn how guerrilla warfare works and how to counteract guerrilla warfare and how to fight against it. Because like the French were successful in squashing it. The only problem was that years later, all of Algeria rose up and was like, no. Fuck this. And so that was, the ultimate outcome, is that Algeria was freed. But like the events of this film are like 10 years before, or like, something like that.
They're a few years.
A few years.
Yeah.
Like 7 years, whatever it is, before Algeria actually gained its independence from the French. So like stylistically, this film is insane, because I think they used like I think the film reel or like something that they used was traditionally used as newsreels. So like, again, like I'm saying it for like the third time, this looks like a documentary. And it's like mind blowing watching it. It really is. Yeah, specifically shot to kind of look like a newsreel, purposely shot in black and white. And it's very. I was reading about how Pontecorvo, he thought he was making a film that was very, very objective. Like the Algerians had no problem with him coming in. But like, in reality, you can argue it's objective in the sense that like you were sympathetic with the Algerians, and in an objective sense, the Algerians were correct. Yep.
So in that sense, it is objective. But it was banned in France, and the French didn't like it, or the French government didn't like it. A lot of French intellectuals liked it, and the French left. Like, this is a really influential film around... This came out in 1966, and then 67, 68, and onwards. It's hugely influential, as you're saying, in not just the students' kind of uprisings that came around in 68, but also like the IRA apparently.
Oh yeah, I'd say so.
The IRA loved this film, studied this film. The PLO, the ANC, like every guerrilla group you can think of, studied this film. And at the time, it was because it was a new kind of warfare that only really, like, I don't know, had been formalized properly in literally like the last 10 or 20 years when this film was released. Like Che Guevara and like Mao Zedong are like the main like guerrilla guys who literally wrote the books on guerrilla warfare, and they had just released their books or written whatever accounts of their campaigns a few years before this came out. So it all kind of worked as a cohesive body of work from which people tried to map onto their own situations.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, in reverse, people who were against these rebellions studied them to see how to put them down and to see how they worked from the inside. And it's kind of funny because you talk about I saw Jerry Seinfeld saying that Seinfeld would never get made today because it's like too like politically incorrect or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But Battle of Algiers is the kind of film that would be illegal to make it today.
Yeah.
Because it glorifies the terrorist group, and it tells you exactly how the terrorists won. You know.
Yeah. How they did what they did.
Yeah, how they won, and kind of tells you like in an objective way, but also a very biased way, because the director is openly Marxist, openly sympathetic with the FLN. Tells you that they basically deserved to win, and that it was good that they did win, and that the film depicts atrocities by the FLN as well, like just blowing up random cafes.
Yeah, that scene, like,
yeah.
Because from that scene, you're just like, yeah, like they're attacking the police, they're killing people that are oppressing them. But that scene where those 3 women have the bomb each, and then it just like shows you who's going to be affected by this, and you're seeing the little boy eating the ice cream. You're seeing families, you're seeing young people, you're seeing like completely innocent people that are just going to be caught up in this. It like completely like reframes what is happening, because you're like, oh right, yeah, like there are innocent, like French people, well.
Innocent. Yes. Well, yeah, they are innocent. Yes. Yeah.
Innocent in the sense that they're not,
well, a child. Yeah. Like people like that.
And young people that are just, out having a good time. They're going to be caught up in this, and like it's funny that because like I was watching this and I'm like, man, you could have made a movie like this, but like set in like Northern Ireland, because similar thing.
Yeah.
And like it made me think about like. Like the film makes you think about guerrilla warfare, and makes you think about like one man's freedom fighters and another person's terrorists and shit like that. And it does like it is like objective in that sense, because it's it's showing like you have the scene where they're just bombing it down in an ambulance, and they're just shooting random people.
Yeah.
Again, like just these atrocities that were committed, but in the name of freedom for Algeria and stuff like that.
Yeah, the chaos of war. Like it's not a Star Wars thing where it's like the Rebel Alliance versus the Empire. It's very much more realistic. Though Star Wars was based on the Viet Cong, who did the exact same thing, slaughtered loads of civilians. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, that's I'm not going to.
Well, at the end of the day,
but the film basically says like, the end result of this was a good thing.
Yeah.
Even though it's being objective, quote unquote. So it's a very dangerous film in that sense, and it was banned in France, as I said, for 1 year, and then the ban was lifted, but no theater would show it. So like it's very influential in that sense, and it is the kind of film that you literally could not make if you made this about the fucking whatever. Like you could pick any random terrorist group in the world.
You could like if you were to make this film set on this subject matter.
Yes.
Now you wouldn't be allowed to make it.
Yeah, it's a very obvious subject you can make this film about. You can remake this film based on a very obvious parallel which is happening right now, and it would be banned everywhere, and you'd be put in jail for making it. Which is like, you can see the argument for why that kind of makes sense, but then it's also, why was that? Like, this film is so well regarded, and it's like everyone basically, it's a common kind of thought that Algerian revolution was a good thing. Like, it was a good thing. It was a great thing. Freed the Algerians, got rid of the French Empire. Those are good things. But you can't really transplant that to today. Well, because a lot of the parallels you see in the film, very obvious, are still being used today.
Yeah.
So it's still kind of dangerous.
It's almost like history repeats itself.
It's almost like these things are kind of, the patterns repeat, but the way they're interpreted is basically the same, but the way they're treated is completely different. So like, if you made this film today, it wouldn't end up well for you. But why is that, Why is that? Because things are worse today, or the terrorists are even worse today, or is it because the people who studied this film were able to learn more than the people who studied it in a way that was sympathetic to the terrorists?
Yeah.
Whatever. It makes you kind of think, because there's a lot of scenes and kind of techniques that are used by the French military against the FLN, like torture and like murder.
Oh, they're just straight up with it as well.
Yeah, they're very open about it, and like there's a scene where they talk about the general's talking to his troops, and it's like, what we need to do here, could only be impeded by law, by like humanitarian law. So we need to incite an incident which will make that law obsolete, so that we can do what we need to do without any, any obstacles. And it's like, yeah. And then there's one where they talk about, it's like, oh, the Algerians, they call us Nazis, but we were the victims of the Nazis. The Nazis came after us. They're the Nazis for attacking us. So, this is kind of. Was this made in 1966?
Yeah, because you're watching. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, weird how this film is like so incredibly relevant for like current times.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it is also I like the bit as well where you have like the journalists asking the colonel questions. It's like, you're not answering these questions directly. You're answering them in very indirect ways. And it's like, then ask me a direct question. It's like, are you using torture? And it's like, torture doesn't come up in anywhere in any of our documents or anything like that. So we refute that we're using torture. And it's like, but you are using strong interrogation is what's being described as. It's just like,
enhanced interrogation techniques.
Mm-hmm.
This was screened there last week in the Columbia encampment in the US. They did a massive screening of it, a guerrilla screening of the Battle of Algiers. It's the first time that happened in the Western world for like decades or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think that kind of tells you what the film is about and how it kind of maps onto the present. So I don't know, but there's so many obvious parallels there, which just it's difficult to watch.
But again, this film isn't talking about that. It is just talking about the Battle of Algiers. But like this,
it's such a small. It's talking about quite a small, well, not small battle, but it's talking about a very specific battle, which only lasted for a year.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that is shown in the film and all the themes in the film are universal, very purposely universal. Like, he made this film about specifically this battle because, 10 years on from when the battle ended, because it spoke to very universal themes and because it kind of described things that were constantly happening and that are still happening to a great extent. And that's why it lives on. It's considered one of the greatest films of all time. But it's not the kind of it's not where you sit down and you're like, this is great. This is a great aesthetic experience. It's like, fucking hell, this is dire. This speaks to something. This is speaking at me from the past to something. This is telling me that the past is continuous with the present in a really horrifying way.
Yeah.
It's like a horror film nearly. Though it does end well, in a way. Because they win. They win.
Eventually.
Win. At the end of the day, they win.
But I think that's what that is almost like part of the film that you're talking about is like this the past is continues with the present. Where this film essentially ends with our main characters, they don't win.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
But later on, they will.
Yeah.
Just like what has happened, the events in this film ends in failure, but it results in success. It is like that kind of like Penda's Fen type of thing. Like, you're the future generations. You will continue on.
Yeah.
You will take back the land that we weren't able to claim, and like eventually there will be freedom. But you will not be alive to see it.
Yeah, and there's something beautiful about that. Planting the seeds of a tree that you want to sit in the shade of or whatever. But like. And that's
poetry.
That's someone said. It was like a right wing critic was talking about how Pontecorvo is dangerous, not just because he's a Marxist, but because he's a poet. He's a poetic Marxist who could articulate material realities in a way that it kind of rhymes in your head. Because that idea of a kind of a delayed victory is also just kind of how guerrilla warfare works. Altogether. You
can see it in Ireland.
Yeah, IRA, they only had I think 1 or 2 engagements where they beat the British Army, but they at the end of the day they still Yeah, they got half what they wanted, and in about in a few years they'll probably get fully what they wanted. It's the same in China, same in Cuba. It's all a delayed. Same in Vietnam, by far the best example. It's like fighting something now, but not necessarily knowing where it's going to end, but having faith in some kind of great victory. That's past the end credits,
Yeah.
But like being comfortable with that, being comfortable with not being part of the glorious kind of resolution to this story, like you're just kind of playing your part, and that's kind of the whole thing with the Marxist conception of history as well. It's like this, whatever salvation will be reached, it's like it's measured in centuries, as Dune. Dune also, it's mentioned in the film. The call, it's like "Long live the martyrs." It's like that was like the slogan of the FLN, and that kind of like perfectly encapsulates that whole idea. It's like "Long live the martyrs," long live the people who are dead. So it's the people who have already died, who are living on, and the sacrifice that they made is what kind of powers the victory in the present or in the future. But that was removed from Dune for maybe logical reasons. But yeah, it's a poetic film. A poetic film, not in a visual way, but in a way you kind of have to think about it.
Like the visual kind of aspect of it is like a lot of the shots are like any act of violence is done from a distance.
Yeah.
Like fighting and like people, explosions and stuff like that are done from a distance most of the time, and I think that's because it is like replicating that like documentary-esque style. Although I do think that like in one of the explosions it's like inside and then it just cuts to the outside and you actually see the explosion, but whatever. Most of the violence is like from a distance, from like a safe distance as well. I think I saw one of it described as to like do that documentary style. But it is interesting because like you think about some of the other films that we're talking about, like what you're saying about Late Night with the Devil, and you have like Baby Reindeer, where there's like this like subtext going on. There's like no subtext in this film whatsoever.
Yeah.
But the subtext that you actually get from it is, oh, this just keeps happening. This is a piece of history. This is like a document of history.
Yeah.
That will forever speak to the future, because time is a flat circle and these tactics are used over and over and over again, and they're easily recognizable. And this film isn't able to answer how do you combat like an enemy, let's just say, that has knowledge of what you're doing when you don't know how to fight against, like, you know what I mean? Like, because like it's what you were saying earlier on about like the people that studied this film from one side learned a lot more than the other side.
Yeah.
So this film isn't able to answer like, well, this is how you resolve that.
Yeah.
Because there's other issues at play in current moments, where it's difficult to progress forward. Like, it's like what you're saying with the Columbia University. I don't think like American college students just start going to be committing guerrilla warfare in order to fix this.
Happen.
But
they tried that. They tried that at the time.
Yeah.
SDS and all the boys. Didn't work.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
Surprisingly.
But they had a good go of it. But yeah, it's like, these things recombine. Like, because guerrilla warfare was or the modern conception of it was such a new thing back then, because he'd just come out of World War II, and then the Korean War ended in 52. This happened in 56, and then the film was released in 66. So it was quite a new idea, or like the kind of the theoretical basis for it was quite revolutionary, because you had like this, mechanized industrial war machines, which you like had Nazis conquered Europe, and then they got conquered in turn. It was like this biggest war of all time. But then the victors of that war were beaten by like just random farmers with a few guns and farm equipment and stuff. So that's like you always find a way, even if
Mhm.
like there's insurmountable technological or material odds stacked against you. There's always going to be some way to work around that.
Mhm.
And like, a lot of all the tactics in this film are completely obsolete now.
Yeah.
Like, none of them work anymore. Just because of how technology has evolved. But there's still, like, all around the world today, there's still groups that are evolving, or tactics and ideologies and ways of approaching war, or ways of approaching conflict in general, which are constantly, moving around and finding the weak points in something that seems completely insurmountable.
Mm.
Like the French Empire would have seemed completely like a behemoth back then. But then in '56 they lost. I think it was '56 they lost the Suez, and then it was '62 they lost Algeria, and then they just completely disappeared. And the same thing will happen to every big country that's around today. It's just a matter of when that happens.
It's only a matter of time.
How it happens.
Mm.
And the Battle of Algiers tells you a very specific moment when a very specific engagement happened, and something like that did happen.
Mm.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well put, and a great film. Do you think it stacks up as like one of the greatest films of all time?
Well, it's not a great watch, like. It's like I wouldn't maybe I'd watch it again. It's a hugely important film, yeah.
Mm.
It's more like reading a book, like a non.
Yeah.
It's more like reading a historical book rather than I wouldn't read a book about the Irish War of Independence, no matter how good it was, and say that was the best.
Barely though.
Yeah. But you wouldn't be like, that's the greatest film I've ever seen or the greatest book I've ever read. This is a really amazing movie though, but it's not the kind of movie that we usually talk about.
Mm.
So.
It's different. It's like, and for very clear reasons, this film is different. Okay, right. Recommended film for
Here we go.
episode 136 is going to be Three Colors. Blue. The first one.
Okay.
Oh, maybe I'll take that back. Wait, the only reason why I'm thinking about taking that out is because I don't think the films work as individuals. I think you have to watch them as all three, and I don't want to recommend three films that are 2 hours each. So
what is it?
do you know these movies, the three colors?
Let's see.
See, they're French films,
Ah,
and so you got blue, you got red, and you got white,
I don't.
or maybe it's blue, white, red.
Whatever it is, the French.
Whatever
colours.
fucking French colors.
Yeah.
Wait, let me think. Scratch that. We're not doing that fucking shit. Instead, we're going to be doing All That Jazz 1979. Bob Fosse? I don't know. Have you ever seen All That Jazz?
I've never heard of it.
You've
Bob-
never heard of it.
Bob Fosse?
Fosse?
Bob Fosse?
Fosse? Fuzzy?
Bob Fosse? I'd
Bob
say it's
Fosse?
Fosse. Fosse. Bob Fosse.
Roy Schneider?
Oh.
Jessica Lange?
Oh.
Uh,
Anna Rainking.
sure.
Leland Palmer. Sign me up.
Keep saying names, bro. I have no idea. Yeah, this is like I have heard this film be like not in the same, how to describe, canon as 8.5. But I've seen a few YouTube
You hated
video
8.5.
essays. I've seen a few YouTube video essays that have been All That Jazz and 8.5 put together. I don't know why. I'm presuming it's got to do with the act of creating and shit like that. I'm presuming that's what it has to deal with. So hopefully I don't hate All That Jazz.
It sounds interesting. I've never heard of it, I have to say.
You never heard of it? Okay.
Never heard of it.
I've it's meant to be grey.
Won the Palme d'Or.
Won the Palme d'Or.
Yeah.
It was what the letterbox just say to me there. 120th greatest film of all time. I've seen a lot of friends rating it 5 stars. So
All right, sign me up.
here we go.
Sign me up.
Here we go. Okay, right. We will leave you there. Good night. God bless.
Bye.